And right now, joining us, it's Sactown Sports' beat writer for the Sacramento Kings, as well as so many other things. The one, the only, Frankie Cartoscelli. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, guys. Jason, are you hanging in there after the Yankees lost, my friend?
Wow, Frankie, I recorded the game.
Man. Wow.
Is it over?
Sorry to spoil it for you, man.
Wow. I was envisioning a Red Sox comeback, so I guess No, I'm good. All good. Just got to keep Judge, that's all.
Okay, hang in there. We'll see.
Yeah, my heart bleeds for both of you.
Yeah, sure it does.
Well, Yankee fans have at least seen a couple of great things in their lifetimes. There are, let's just be honest, literally people that can legally go to bars that have absolutely no memory of the Sacramento Kings being in the playoffs.
True.
They have no memory. They were alive, but that's not what matters. You know, me in diapers doesn't mean you're experiencing it. They've just never experienced it. So, Frankie, 0-3. We asked this question earlier in 3 for Madness. When are the Kings getting their first win? You got to pick a game. When do you think that happens?
I thought about this last night, and obviously, like when the schedule came out, I looked at it and thought, like maybe a 2-8 start. But they do go on the road coming up. I mean, you could make a case for Miami. They do play well historically at home against Miami. I'm not sure why. In my brain, it sticks out. They have always played well against Miami. That first game that Harrison Barnes played in Sacramento sticks out. But obviously, Charlotte is kind of down a man right now. They're playing decent basketball, but you have Charlotte and Orlando on the road. Again, Orlando, that's going to be the Paolo-Keegan Murray matchup. That's the 8th of November. There's a couple of games coming up, but there's really no way to slice it other than it's going to be a tough start for them. And I think, I'm not sure if you guys said it or I'm sure you did, but I think everyone's kind of expected that the schedule to kind of open up at the end of November into early December, but things could really get ugly by then. But it's basketball. You guys know this. Things could happen at any given night. But last night we almost saw a miracle comeback. It was against the end of the bench for the Warriors, but anything can happen. So I'll say hopefully in the next couple of days here they can squeak one out, but you never know.
Frankie, one thing Dave and I were talking about too is Coach Brown's seemingly to me still trying to figure out what he's got, what his rotations are. We've talked about starters before, and KZ Okpala playing just 3 minutes yesterday as a starter on Curry, then doesn't play again. But it just seems like even throughout the game he's still searching. And when you're 0-3, it makes sense. But at what point also do you think they kind of get into more of a predictable groove on maybe the 8 or 9 that are going to play?
Pretty soon. Last night was the first time Mike Brown's kind of conceded to the fact that there could be a change in the starting lineup pretty soon. When he was asked about the possibility that Keegan Murray becomes a starter, he, for the first time, said, yeah, I think that's something we're going to probably do pretty soon. And especially when you look at some different lineups like Harrison Barnes, you guys talked about last segment, he's been probably the most disappointing member of the Kings so far. He does not look like himself. Mike Brown did say last night he's going to stick with Harrison Barnes. He's earned that right. He's been a good professional for over a decade now. And that's true. Harrison's been a good King since he came here. He really hasn't had a stretch of games quite like this before. I don't think any of us expected him to come into the season and not hit a 3 over 3 games when he was the Kings' best 3-point shooter after the Halliburton trade. So, then adding in the fact that he's an 80% free throw shooter for his career, he's shooting 50%. It's just uncharacteristic, but you could see down the stretch if he still is struggling. Like you mentioned, KZ Okpala could come in and defend some of the opposing scorers, like we saw last night early. The Kings had to pull him to get Keegan Murray in the game. That's something that I stand by, because I think the Kings need to get Keegan Murray in the game, but maybe Harrison Barnes is the player they take out instead next time. It's going to be interesting to see how they go into those issues, but 3 games, and there's plenty of season to go. But, yeah, there's been a couple glaring issues.
37% for Harrison Barnes, which is terrible. But it's not as bad as Malik Monk and Davion Mitchell. Monk shooting 31%, Mitchell shooting 30%. That's 3 guys getting pretty decent rotational minutes that, are shooting 30 to 36%. That's not great. Who to you, because I know on our chat line right now I can see all the people picking who they think the scapegoat is. Frankie, who's the actual scapegoat? You got to pin one player that's got to turn it around. Who is that?
I guess I'll kind of go to Malik Monk, because the second unit has I think a lot of fans thought the second unit was kind of a strength coming into the season, and Malik Monk was a huge part of that. The fact that the Kings had two guards, Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, who were starting caliber, and that was the debate coming into the season, Malik Monk or Kevin Huerter, and that was a lot of people were pretty torn on that. I think Malik Monk last night, it was nice to see him knock down 4 threes. I mean, he didn't have a great night from the field. He was still 5 of 16, but the Kings need an anchor in that second unit. And if Keegan Murray's not going to be there, if he's going to move in the starting lineup, and I know that Mike Brown's going to keep at least 1 or 2 starters on the floor at all times, that's going to be a goal of his, but they need somebody from that second unit to kind of be an anchor. And Malik Monk sticks out to me because he is a player who came off a great season in Los Angeles. He's someone who has the potential to have those kind of, not to speak Buddy Hield's name out on this fine morning, but he has the capability to have those kind of hot games where you kind of see him go for 20, 24 points when he gets hot from behind the arc. So having an anchor in the second unit that can just be a leader out there on the floor, be a focal point of the offense. And to me right now, it's Malik Monk because Davion Mitchell's shots are not falling. Rashawn Holmes finally had a good game last night after honestly a rough 6-7 months.
Yeah.
So it's going to take someone in that second unit to step up, and to me, that's got to be Malik Monk.
Frankie, how did the Kings find a way to get what they're getting from De'Aaron right now and turn that into wins? Because I think we've seen many times over De'Aaron's career, he can have great nights, and it over time it doesn't translate into enough W's. How do they find that pairing to go the right way?
That's been the problem. De'Aaron's been a guy who's put up big numbers. It's kind of reminiscent to when the Kings had DeMarcus Cousins. People would always say, oh, well, that's great. He's scoring 35 and grabbing 17 rebounds, but what are you doing for me? Are you getting wins? So that's not happening right now. And I hate to say, everybody else has to step it up and De'Aaron has to do nothing. That's not true. I mean, De'Aaron has to cut down on his turnovers. But it is true that everybody else around him hasn't really been consistent. I mean, Kevin Huerter has had a great start to the season. Last night, he kind of had a rough game, but Domantas Sabonis has had a very bad first 2 games of the season that you could make an argument if he even played half to his capability in the opener, the Kings would have won that game easily. Second game as well. And Harrison Barnes, like we talked about, it's not Harrison Barnes. So I think in order for De'Aaron Fox to not have these games wasted on a nightly basis, you have to have those guys step it up. And I think we could see, like I said, a different lineup, different rotations, just different kind of tweaks to Mike Brown's rotation. Nothing drastic, but we could see some different situations here. And I don't think Mike Brown enjoys losing basketball games. He's not going to stand by idly and let these performances by De'Aaron Fox go to waste either. So it's going to take the other guys to step up and De'Aaron to continue to play good defense, which has been impressing a lot of people around the media row. The fact that De'Aaron looks engaged on the defensive end. I think he's top 3 in the NBA in deflections right now, which is something that was never the case for his game. So it's going to take a little more from everybody else.
30 seconds, Frankie. Let me ask you this. Point to me one thing Mike Brown has done well so far as head coach that stands out.
I mean, make the media laugh, put smiles on people's faces. I mean, from a non-basketball standpoint, sure. I mean, the guy comes in the presser last night eating a cookie from the Warriors' kitchen. But no, I just think the good vibes that Mike Brown brings, it's contagious to be around him, and I think that it's going to show on the basketball floor pretty soon here.
Check out the Sactown Sports website, Instagram, all the socials, everything else. Frankie and Chris and so many others doing a fantastic job. There is no better Kings coverage in the city than right here at Sactown Sports. Appreciate you, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
All right, you
too.
Take